Welcome to today's video. This is a continuation of the C# beginners series. In our last video, we looked at data types of Boolean, character, and string. In case you didn't watch that, I strongly encourage you to watch the previous video before continuing with this video. Thank you. Today, we'll be looking at what identifiers and reserved words in C# are. So what exactly are identifiers? An identifier is used to give name to various elements in a program. Such elements are variables, method, classes, and namespace. You notice I put emphasis on variables because for now, I think what we should focus on should be variables. We will talk about method, classes, and namespaces later on in the series. But for now, just imagine that identifiers are used to give name to elements in a program, and the element we are talking about for now is just the variables. So imagine we have memory locations, and our systems have locations memory. So for example, you say your system is 500 GB, so there are memory locations in your system. For example, the way it is that this is how it's recognized. So the memory locations can be maybe something like this: 00 up to 0008 location. Now, so imagine that I have allocated that, okay, I want a string to be in the first 3 location slots. I want to put a boolean in the 3rd location slot, and I want to put a decimal in the 5 location slots there. Just for simplicity's sake, let's just imagine this, how it looks like. Now, because we have this, imagine you want to access the data in for the string. For example, you have to be referencing, for example, 0x0000 or 0x001, 0x002. That's, for you as a developer, that will be too much of a hassle. So that is why we have identifiers. So they are like names we give to memory locations. They are not the memory location themselves. They are just like names that when we use those names, we can use it to identify a particular location. So for example, the string location, I could say that within this location, I want to give it a variable called my string variable. So it means wherever the system, computer, the C# program sees my string variable, it knows you are talking of location 000 all the way to location 002. If, for example, I said I created a variable called my bool, and I said it's for location 003. So for wherever it sees me using my bool, it knows I am referencing or talking about whatever is in the content of location 003. And also the same thing with location 0004 all the way to 0008. If I give it a name called the room temperature of the office, it knows that wherever it sees the room temperature of the office, it knows that I am speaking with regards to location 0004 all the way to 0008. So that is what identifiers really are. So here, for example, these variables, whenever they are used or wherever they are used, all the program will now do is it knows that, okay, I am to go and check from location 0004 all the way to 0008. Basically, that is just what identifiers are. So imagine that you have a box. This will, just to simplify it, imagine you have a box, and that box is a memory location. The content, it has, maybe let's say my name is inside, and so probably the content of this box is S solution. That is the name. Now, how will the computer program know, or how will I be able to access the data there? How will I be able to tell the computer program S solution is in this particular location? What we do is we put a tag on it. So for example, name. So you see, for example, I could just tell the computer, I want it to go to the variable that has a tag name and get me the content. So you see, the computer program can now go into the box and say, okay, yes, I see a box called name, and it can get the content within the box. So that basically is what an identifier is. So an identifier is a sequence of characters that follows specific rules and conventions. So there are some specific rules that we have for identifiers. Now in C#, an identifier must start with a letter or an underscore. Let's go to the code and look at how it looks like. So open our Visual Studio, and let's say we have an integer. So I have a memory location for integers, for example. Let's just imagine, I have oversimplified that statement I made, but just imagine with me it's like that. So we have an integer memory location, and I want to call it my age. So what I am doing here is I am basically saying that my age is an identifier. It is like a tag used to identify a memory location of this integer. Basically, that's what this is. So for example, if I put equals to 9, the computer program, what I am telling you is I want a location, and in that location I want to put an integer. But the name of that location will be, or locations will be, my age. So if I come afterwards now and I said, okay, I want to console log whatever is in my age, we see that when this runs, we should be able to get what my age is. Here we see that it tells us that the age is 9, as we see here. So that is just basically what this is all about. Variables. I could create a variable. So let's say it was a string, for example, and I call it the name of my YouTube channel, and I call it S solution. So basically what I'm telling the system is that, all right, I want a location in memory for a string, so the content will be a string, but I want you to give it an identifier. I want you to give it a tag called the name of my YouTube channel. So wherever in my code it sees the name of my YouTube channel, it knows that I am talking of that particular location in memory. It just goes there and looks for this tag and say, where is this tag called the name of my YouTube channel? Once it finds the tag, it now gets the content, and you know the content is what? S solution. So that is basically what an identifier is in a nutshell. So we are told that an identifier must start with a letter or an underscore. So for example, you see that it's starting with a letter, and I can also start with an underscore. You see, it's also fine. But what I cannot do is I cannot start with an ordinary symbol. For example, I can't start with any other symbol. The only symbol I can start with is an underscore or a letter. Similarly, I cannot start with a number, for example. It will not accept that. But after I have started with, for example, an underscore or a letter, I can go ahead and put, so for example, I will come here and I will create, let's say, a byte and call it like this. You know, this is number one. I use number 1 here. It accepts this because what it looks for is when you, to start it, it must start with an underscore or an alphabet, and it doesn't matter whether it's capital or big or small letter. So far it's an alphabet, it's okay with it. But what is not okay is to start with a number like this. The system will reject that. It doesn't recognize this as a variable. So your variables, you should note, must start with either an underscore or an alphabet. So let's go back. It can be followed by a combination of letters, digits, and underscores, as we see here. Also, they are case sensitive, meaning upper and lower cases are considered distinct. So for example, if I have a short here and I call it short and I give this 54, oh sorry, let me just give it, and I give it 54. If I have another one, another short here, and I call it 53, for example, this is different from this in the computer program. It sees these two as distinct because this, although for we in English it looks the same, both of them are short, S-U-T, S-U-H-T, S-U-H-T, but because this is a small letter and these are capital letter, it sees them as different. In fact, everything, so I could do this and it still sees it as different because of this capital S and small, this is a small s. So using different cases, actually the computer system sees them as different variables. So if I come here and I say I want to console write line, and I say I want to console write line short, you know this is the one with the small letter I'm running now. So when we run this, we expect that the one it will show for us is this one, 54. It won't show 53 because the variable we are calling is this. It sees it as different from this. So if I were to run this and we see what it comes out with, we see that it shows 54, which is SUHT with a small letter s. So that's basically what that is saying. Also, we are told that it is recommended to use descriptive and meaningful names for identifier to improve code readability and maintainability. What this is talking about, as a developer, because you are not likely going to be the only one working on it, and even if you are the only one working on it, you will write lots and loads of codes. But how will you know what that identifier or variable you created was for? It is when you give it meaningful names. So for example, here, when I give it a variable called the name of my YouTube channel, solution, it is clear to me or any other person that when he sees this variable, the name of my YouTube channel, it's clear that what this is talking about is talking about the name of my YouTube channel. Imagine if I came here and I just gave it a string ASDF and I said S solution. You see, we don't really, if we do not see the content to see its S solution, just by ASDF, we don't know what it is. But you see here, it is very descriptive and it's easy to know. Even without looking at what the content is, we can know that, oh, whatever is going to be in the content will be the name of his YouTube channel. Also, identifiers should not be the same as predefined types or conflict with other names within the same scope. So, for example, we are about to go to the other part of it, but before that, up here, I have a variable called _a. I cannot come here again and call another variable _a. The system will not allow that. So you see, because we have a tag already with _a. So the problem is, imagine you have two exact people with the same name. It becomes hard to identify who is who just by the name. And since it is only the name that it uses to understand what address in location or what memory location it is talking about, it means this system will find it difficult to actually distinguish the variables. So you should note that you cannot give a variable the same name you have given subsequently. Also, we are talking of identifiers should not be same as predefined types, and that brings us to reserved words. So what are reserved words? Those predefined types we are talking about are actually what we call reserved words. So reserved words are also known as keywords. They are words which have predefined meanings and are part of the language syntax. They cannot be used as identifiers, just as we've said. So example of such reserved words in C#, we have if, else, for. So let me just use some of them. If I can't come and create a string and call it if, so a string, I can't do this because if is a reserved word. It cannot take in if it's something, if has another meaning already in C#. So reserved words are actually words that have a particular meaning already within the language, which is C# in our case. So examples are, we have if, we have for, we have while, we have class, we have struct. All of these are reserved words. Also, for example, the word string itself is a reserved word. So for example, I cannot create a variable. I can't come and say string and give it no. Or I cannot say, okay, a string and the name is going to be bool. It will not, because bool already has a meaning in C#. Bool is used to represent Boolean values, that is true or false values. So if we can't give this as an identifier because of that. So these are reserved words. So using reserved words as identifiers will result in compilation error. So this, if I try to run this, so if I try to run this, we see that this will not run. It will give a compile error. So this is good for us in C# because this tells you that something is wrong with my system. We cannot deploy this we cannot give this to the client like this because it will not run even for the client. So it tells us we need to fix this beforehand. So this is very good. So it tells us, you see, that identifier expected. This is not an identifier for it. This is a reserved word. So therefore, it is important to be aware of these keywords and choose different meaningful names for identifiers in your C# code to ensure clarity and avoid conflict with the language syntax and functionality. So conclusion of this is that we should note the various reserved words. You don't need to cram it at all. You don't need to cram it. Especially when you're using Visual Studio, it will automatically tell you when you are trying to use a reserved word, and by default you will begin to know these reserved words as we keep going in the series. You will keep seeing them popping up here and there, so they will finally stick. You don't need to bother noting them or cramming them. So this basically a reserved word. So today we've talked about reserved words and we've talked about identifiers. I hope that these two are very clear to us. I hope this video was clear enough. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, share, like, and drop a comment if you have a question. And I'll see you in the next video.